Imagine for a second, you're playing a sport right in front of 25,000 screaming fans.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a massive crowd.
Right. And your team completely dominates the match. You win 2-0. You're an absolute commercial sensation, totally going viral in the culture.
Sounds like a dream scenario, honestly.
It does, right. But then, instead of giving you a parade when you get home, the government actually steps in.
Wait, the government?
Yeah, the government. And they officially ban you from ever playing again, claiming that the sport is, quote, harmful to your nature.
That is just, I mean, that's incredibly harsh.
It's wild. But that is exactly what happened. Today's mission for this deep dive is to explore the incredible, really just roller coaster history of the France women's national football team.
Famously known as Les Bleues.
Exactly, Les Bleues. We're going to track their journey from those early, silence pioneers through a really grueling modern rebirth, all the way up to their dramatic qualification for the 2027 World Cup.
Which was quite a run.
Oh, it was. And to pull this off, we've got a great stack of sources today. We're diving into a comprehensive historical breakdown of the team, and we're pairing that directly with a really detailed tactical match report from their recent 2026 qualifying campaign.
And, I just want to say right up front to anyone listening, you really don't have to be a diehard football fan to get something out of this.
No, not at all.
Because this isn't just a sports story, it's a really striking case study in institutional resilience. It shows us in very stark terms how structural support, or, the deliberate lack of it, can completely make or break generational talent.
Yeah, it's so true.
It's basically about what happens when a system is explicitly designed to hold you back and how you eventually, hopefully, forge a winning mentality despite all that institutional weight.
Right. So to understand how a team gets banned in the first place, we kind of need to understand how they started.
Makes sense. Where do we begin?
So the year is 1919. And at this time, the traditional sporting bodies aren't exactly welcoming women with open arms.
To put it mildly, yeah.
Exactly. So an alternative organization is set up. It's called the FSSFSF. And essentially, the sources explain this was a pioneering French sporting federation created by women, for women.
Right, because the mainstream establishment just completely refused to organize female athletics.
Exactly. They had to build it themselves.
It was a very necessary workaround. And under that umbrella, you had this visionary pioneer named Alice Milliat.
Yes, Alice Milliat. She's crucial here.
She is. She organizes a French national team and actually takes them across the English Channel in 1920.
Talk about a road trip.
Right. And they go play the Dick Kerrs Ladies, which was this massive, highly successful English club team at the time.
And that's the match I mentioned at the start. The French team wins 2-0 in Preston.
Which is wild when you think about the scale. 25,000 spectators in 1920.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to me, this early boom feels exactly like a highly successful tech startup.
Oh, I like that comparison. How so?
Well, you have this disruptive idea, right?
Yeah.
You find product market fit almost immediately. You're going completely viral. The user base is exploding.
Yeah, the demand is clearly there.
And then out of nowhere, regulators just step in with a sledgehammer and shut down your servers purely because they don't like the look of what you're building.
That is an incredibly apt way to look at it. Because the shutdown certainly wasn't due to a lack of commercial interest.
Not at all. 25,000 fans proves that.
Exactly, or a lack of raw athletic talent. It was entirely ideological.
But how does a government actually legislate a sport out of existence? Like, practically speaking.
Well, our sources take us to 1941, during World War II, when the Vichy regime is in power in France.
Right.
And they officially outlawed women's football.
And they didn't just casually discourage it, they banned it.
What's fascinating here is the specific mechanism they used to justify that ban. The Vichy government leaned heavily on conservative ideology regarding gender roles.
Okay, so just reporting what the sources say here. They didn't just say, we don't like women playing sports.
Right. They weaponized the medical and scientific discourse of the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They used government-backed authority figures to claim that playing a physical sport like football was fundamentally contrary to, quote, female nature.
That's heavy stuff.
They argued it was dangerous to women's bodies and, by extension, dangerous to the future of the nation itself.
So they essentially made it a matter of national security or public health.
Exactly. When you have the state, the legal system, and the medical establishment all officially aligned against you, it forces the entire sport into the shadows.
And those shadows, they lasted a remarkably long time. The sport was driven underground, and basically stayed there for nearly 3 decades.
3 decades. I mean, it only survived because of isolated local passion.
Just people playing in parks away from the authorities.
Pretty much. You had pockets of women who just refused to stop playing, even when they were literally told they were acting against their own nature.
Right.
But if we connect this to the broader landscape of global sports, think about what a 30-year ban actually does to a nation's competitive infrastructure.
I mean, you lose everything.
You don't just lose multiple generations of players, you lose the coaches, the tactical evolution, the grassroots funding pipelines.
The youth scouting networks, all of it.
Exactly. It created a massive, decades-long developmental gap for France compared to other nations where the sport, even if it was ignored, wasn't explicitly criminalized.
Which obviously poses a massive challenge. Like, how do you go from being banned and forgotten to eventually playing on the world stage?
It's a huge hill to climb.
So our sources point to 1970 as the moment of rebirth. The French Football Federation, the FFF, they finally officially reinstate women's football.
The ban is lifted.
The ban is lifted. But from what I'm reading in the history, lifting a ban and actually supporting a team are two very different things.
Oh, entirely different. And you see that throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Les Bleues really struggled.
They didn't just instantly become a powerhouse.
Not at all. They failed to qualify for multiple World Cups and European Championships. And a primary reason, according to the historical overview, is that they were officially recognized on paper, but practically ignored in reality.
So what did that neglect actually look like on a day-to-day basis for the players?
It looked like amateurism masquerading as international competition. The Federation essentially told them, fine, you can play, but they didn't provide the financial backing required to actually compete internationally.
Right, so they're on their own, basically.
Pretty much. Players were often balancing full-time jobs, training late at night on subpar, poorly lit pitches.
Wow. While trying to be international athletes.
Right. They had minimal travel budgets, fragmented coaching, and essentially zero sports science or medical support.
That's just wild.
They were treating the national team like a weekend recreational club while asking them to compete against countries that were already treating their women's teams like professional athletes.
So the raw talent is there in France, but the foundation is just completely rotten. Which brings us to the early 2000s. Our sources highlight this massive turning point under a manager named Elisabeth Loisel.
Yes, Loisel was pivotal.
She takes over, and suddenly the FFF makes what seems like a monumental decision. The women's team is finally moved to the Clairefontaine Academy.
Finally.
Now, I know Clairefontaine is famous in the football world, but what actually makes it such a game changer for this specific team?
Well, for context, Clairefontaine is the crown jewel of French football. It is an elite, state-of-the-art national training center, literally set in a sprawling forest outside Paris.
Sounds nice.
It's incredible. And moving the women's team there meant they were finally receiving the exact same high-level facilities as the men's national team.
Okay, so true equity in terms of resources.
Exactly. We talk a lot about heart and passion in sports, and, that is essential, but infrastructure is what builds dynasties.
Yeah, passion only gets you so far.
Right. Giving these young women access to elite sports science, customized nutritionists, biomechanical analysis, and pristine pitches, it completely rewrote the team's DNA.
So it shifts them from relying purely on, street-level talent to actually optimizing that talent through science and data.
Exactly. It changes the standard of excellence from the top down.
Right, the psychological shift.
Yeah. I mean, when you are training on patchy dirt fields with part-time medical staff, the institution is subtly telling you that you don't really matter.
Yeah, it's a lack of respect.
But when you walk through the heavily guarded gates of Clairefontaine, the institution is telling you you are elite, and we expect you to win.
I love that.
It accelerates player development exponentially.
And the results from that, they were almost immediate. This infrastructure upgrade sparks their first ever World Cup qualification in 2003.
A huge milestone.
They actually beat England in a crucial playoff match, and they played it in front of 23,000 fans instead of 10.
Which is amazing.
It kind of feels like the spirit of that 1920 Preston match was finally waking back up.
You finally pair that century-old passion with modern world-class backing, and it begins paying dividends.
Which ushers in what our sources describe as the golden era.
Ah, yes. The golden era.
By the time manager Bruno Bini takes over, he inherits this incredible pipeline of technically gifted players that Clairefontaine has started to produce.
Right. The youth development starts showing up at the senior level.
Exactly. And at the 2011 World Cup in Germany, France goes on an absolute tear. They beat England on penalties in the quarterfinals, and they ultimately finish in 4th place.
Which was massive for them.
Yeah, that tournament put Les Bleus firmly on the global map as a legitimate powerhouse.
That 2011 run was crucial. It proved the concept. It proved that French women's football, when properly funded and structurally supported, could stand toe-to-toe with the traditional giants of the game, like Germany and the United States.
Teams that had a huge historical head start on them.
Exactly.
But the Golden Era also introduces a completely new kind of pain for this team.
Yeah, the heartbreaks.
Heartbreak on the biggest possible stages. So in the 2015 World Cup, they lose a brutal quarterfinal to Germany on penalty kicks. A young player named Claire Lavoges gets her decisive kick denied. Just crushing. And then you fast forward to the 2024 Olympics, hosted in their own country, in front of their own fans.
That one hurt?
They suffer a devastating quarterfinal loss to Brazil after largely dominating the flow of the game, and then giving up a fatal goal in the 82nd minute.
It becomes this agonizing, recurring theme for Les Bleus. Beautiful, flowing, dominant football, followed by a sudden, catastrophic exit in the knockout stages.
And this is where I need you to break something down for me.
Sure, go ahead.
We are looking at a roster that features legendary world-class talent. You have players like Eugenie Le Sommer, who holds a national record with over 200 caps.
Meaning she's made over 200 appearances for her country.
Right, and she scored 94 goals. You have Wendy Renard, who is widely considered one of the greatest central defenders in the history of the sport.
Absolute legends.
So, with that level of generational talent, why does the team seemingly hit a ceiling when the pressure is highest? Like, why couldn't they break through to a final?
This raises an important question, and it's one that goes way beyond tactics or formations.
Okay, what is it then?
It ventures deep into the psychology of team culture and managerial stability. To win a major tournament, sheer talent only gets you to the quarterfinals.
Right.
Absolute cohesion gets you to the trophy. And our sources point heavily toward the chaotic era under manager MeLoRidAI, which ran from 2017 to 2023.
Oh, man, yeah. She was sacked just months before the 2023 World Cup. And the Federation actually cited irreversible dysfunctions in their press release.
Which is wild.
That is incredibly strong, almost legalistic language for a sports federation to use against their own manager.
It indicates a complete and total breakdown of trust. You had a manager who fundamentally alienated her best players.
I remember reading about that.
Yeah, there were highly publicized rifts, with veteran leaders actively stepping away from the national team, refusing to play because they felt the environment had become deeply toxic.
They just walked away from playing for their country.
Exactly. Even the most talented rosters in the world cannot overcome a fractured locker room.
It's like trying to build a skyscraper without scaffolding.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Like the raw materials, the talent, the individual players, they're the best in the world. But the moment you face high winds, like, say, a penalty shootout against Germany or an 80th minute defensive stand against Brazil.
The whole structure twists and shears.
Right, because the internal connections between the players just aren't there.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. When you step up to take a penalty or you're defending a one-goal lead, you are relying on absolute blind trust in the person standing next to you and the person leading you from the sideline.
Yeah, it's all about trust in those moments.
If that trust is broken, the mental load of fighting your own management while trying to fight the best teams in the world is just too heavy. It drains the emotional reserves you desperately need for those critical, match-defining moments.
Wait, hang on, though. I have to push back here.
Okay, let's hear it.
MeLoRidAI was fired in 2023.
Right.
So how much of that agonizing quarterfinal loss to Brazil at the 2024 Olympics can we really blame on a manager who was already gone versus the players just, choking under the pressure of a home crowd?
Look, it's a fair challenge. The players absolutely bear responsibility for what happens between the white lines.
They're the ones on the pitch.
Exactly. But think about how trauma and trust issues linger in an institution. You don't just erase 6 years of irreversible dysfunction with a few months of new management.
That's a good point, actually.
The muscle memory of fracturing under pressure, of doubting the system, was still deeply embedded in the squad's psychology during those Olympics. They hadn't fully rebuilt the scaffolding yet.
Which perfectly sets up the present day, July 2026.
Right, the new era.
The team is actively trying to forge a brand new mentality. They have a new manager, Laurent Bonadie, who took over in August 2024, and they have just completed a really grueling, highly scrutinized qualification campaign for the 2027 World Cup in Brazil.
And this qualification run was the ultimate stress test for this new era. It was their first real chance to prove if they had actually exercised the ghosts of the Diak era and built that internal resilience.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look directly at the tactical match report from their final qualifying group,
Yeah.
because it is a roller coaster in its own right.
It really is.
They start off in March with a very convincing 4-1 win against Poland. The attack looks fluid, the depth is there, but then they immediately stumble against the Netherlands.
Well, the Dutch are always a massive tactical test. They play a heavily possession-based, physically suffocating style of football.
Right, and France loses 2-1 away to the Netherlands. Our tactical report shows they really struggled to contain the Dutch attack.
It was a tough match.
And then, just 4 days later, they play the Netherlands again, this time at home in France, and can only manage a 1-1 draw.
So they dropped points twice in a week?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Suddenly, they've surrendered the top spot in their qualifying group. Historically, based on everything we've just discussed, this is exactly the kind of moment where Bleues might fracture.
Oh, absolutely.
The pressure is mounting, the media is circling, the fans are getting nervous.
But look at what happens next. In the past, this team might have collapsed in on itself. Instead, they travel back to Poland in early June. And tactically, MeLoRidAI makes crucial adjustments.
What kind of adjustments?
Instead of getting bogged down in midfield craps, they play quicker, more progressive passes. They put in an incredibly disciplined, highly professional performance to win 2-0 away from home.
The huge result.
They regain control of the group. That bounce back shows a profound psychological reset.
And it all sets up the climax of the campaign. June 9, 2026. France against the Republic of Ireland in Grenoble. France needs a win to definitively secure automatic qualification for the 2027 World Cup. The tension in the stadium is just palpable. But Ireland isn't making it easy. Our report says the Irish team was incredibly organized, sitting deep, essentially just waiting to counterattack.
The tactical term for what Ireland was doing is a low block.
A low block, okay.
Essentially, they packed all their defenders tightly around their own penalty box, denying France any space to run into and daring them to try and thread a perfect pass through a literal wall of players.
Just frustrating them.
Exactly. These are the exact types of frustrating physical games that have historically caused France to lose their patience and make mistakes.
But just before halftime, absolute magic happens. Melvin Millard scores a spectacular overhead kick directly off a corner.
Such a great goal.
It's described in the report as one of the standout goals of the entire European qualifying campaign.
It's a moment of pure individual brilliance, which, to be fair, France has always had in their locker.
True.
But what happens after the goal is what proves this specific squad has actually evolved.
Because it doesn't stay comfortable at all. Late in the match, France gets a red card.
A huge turning point.
They are reduced to 10 players on the pitch. The game state completely flips. Now Ireland has to open up an attack, and the pressure on the French defense is relentless.
They are throwing everything at them.
But France doesn't break. They absorb the pressure and hold on to win 1-0.
If we connect this back to their historical struggles, closing out a tight 1-0 win while down a player against a desperate opponent, that shows a maturity and a defensive solidity that has just been missing for years.
They really had to dig deep.
They were forced into a defensive block of their own just to survive. They didn't panic. They didn't point fingers at the player who got sent off.
Right, no locker room drama.
They suffered together as a unit. They proved they're finally learning how to win ugly. And frankly, if you want to win a World Cup, you have to know how to win ugly.
Yeah, it's not all highlight reels.
You aren't going to play beautiful, flowing football for 7 straight matches.
You have to be able to grind out a result when things just aren't going your way.
Exactly. That match against Ireland showed a unified locker room. It showed players fighting for the manager and fighting for each other.
The total opposite of the Diak era.
It's the direct antithesis of those irreversible dysfunctions that plagued them just a few years prior.
So what does this all mean? When we zoom out and look at this entire timeline, from 1920 to 2026, Les Bleues aren't just a football team.
No, they're much more than that.
They are a collective of women who have constantly had to prove their absolute right to exist on the pitch. They had to overcome state-sponsored erasure by their own government.
Which is still hard to wrap my head around.
They had to survive decades of institutional neglect from their own federation. And eventually, they had to battle their own internal demons and toxic management to establish themselves as a global top-tier squad.
And they survived all of it. They survived the ban. They capitalized on the elite Clairefontaine infrastructure when they finally, got access to it.
Yeah.
And now, looking at this 2026 campaign, it seems they are finally building the psychological resilience to match their extraordinary physical talent.
It's a powerful reminder for you listening to this right now. Whether you are building a career, launching a new project, or leading a team in your own life, infrastructure and unity matter just as much as raw talent.
It's a great takeaway.
You can have the best ideas in the world or the fastest striker on the pitch, but if you don't have structural support and a deep culture of trust, you will eventually hit a ceiling. France proved that talent is merely the baseline, but resilience is the true differentiator.
It really makes you wonder about the butterfly effect of history, though. I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
What's that?
Imagine if the Vichy regime had never banned the sport in 1941.
Oh, wow.
If French women's football hadn't lost 30 critical years of tactical development, grassroots funding, and cultural momentum, what kind of unstoppable global dynasty might they have built by now?
That's a fascinating what if.
Could they have been the undisputed pioneers of the modern game, perhaps with 3 or 4 World Cup stars on their crest already?
We will never know. But watching them step onto the pitch in Brazil in 2027 to try and claim that crown now is going to be something you absolutely do not want to miss. That's all for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.